What are your priorities? Have you ever thought about that? The priorities we have in our life, whether we're aware of them or not, drive where we invest our time, our energy, our money, our passion. They shape everything about our life. And when things get tough, the priorities really drive what we choose. And so in this conversation today, we're going to look at a construct of priorities that really sets you up for success. When I first heard it, I didn't believe it. But a few years ago, I realigned my life and began living this way. And I tell you, it really makes a difference. My name is Gabriel, your host, Navigating Leaders Podcast. Awaken your vision, live boldly. Thank you for being here today. So when we think about our priorities, they drive everything we do in our lives. And some of us have very distinct, written, structured goals and passions and purposes that we follow in some ways religiously every day, while others may sort of wake up in the morning and the world starts pushing on them and they drift and they list and they turn and they move through life affected by every force that's around them, whether it's the person in the Starbucks drive-through line or the crosswalk guard or somebody driving, or you pick the way the world acts or puts pressure on us and we become reactionary and we respond. And so in this order of priority setting, as I was introduced to it a number of years ago, I first thought, oh yeah, that's great. Oh, I could see how that'd be helpful for you, but not for me. My life would never let me do that. I'm too busy, too many responsibilities, too much to do here or to do there to ever live my way or live my life the way that it was presented to me. And so we're going to look at it, right? And my invitation to you is to listen. And when something jumps up at you and you're like, oh no, that could never be, is acknowledge that as a trigger and maybe look deeper at it, right? Because when we're triggered by things, we're awoken or we're brought face to face with something that could be worth looking at, right? All right. So the first priority that was presented to me was God, right? And God seems like an absolute, solid, awesome number one. But it was hard for me to wrap my head around that being like the number one priority in my day and my life when I first heard this, right? So the next one was self, right? And that one's like, okay, that seems awful high and I've got lots of other responsibilities. I don't know how I'm really going to put self that high up, but okay, we'll take it for now. The next one's spouse, right? And for some folks in the audience, this is a real person at this point in time or a partner that we're committed to. For others, it's more of a placeholder, right? We don't have that person in our life yet, but we're working on ourselves. We're growing, we're becoming, we're being who we get to be in order to attract that person into our life, right? After spouse, a lot of times, for many folks, kids follow. Right? And for those that have kids, gosh, do they take a lot of time and energy, and they sort of take everything. I got a whole conversation about kids that we'll get to on another day, right? After kids, we have mission. Mission has another word that could be used. It's also purpose, right? But your mission or purpose, it's like, why am I here? What am I doing in the world, right? Why did God bring me? Or why did he bring you specifically here? And what is that mission or purpose, right? And other times we talk about your vision, right? What's your vision for your life? And so all of that sort of conjoins or comes together here under mission. And then the last one is currency, right? Currency, money, job. How are we paying for things? How are we managing our life? How are we making everything happen? So the first time I see this construct, God, self, spouse, kids, mission, and currency, I kind of chuckle and I'm like, well, if I really had to order it, I'd probably order it like that, right? And it looks really funny, and it's upside down. And oh, by the way, it's upside down in life as well, right? But as I was running a company and doing the things I was doing, I'm like, hey, that takes a ton of my time. And then I want to be in the community. And then my kids, gosh, I got to take care of my kids. And then my wife, Christy, like she needs all of the love and support I can give her and help in the house and provision. And then, you know, if I can get time for me, and then, wow, if I can get some time for God, wouldn't that be great? And so I get introduced to this and I have massive resistance to it, right? I am hung up on it. I'm like, the next place I go to sort of defend against adopting this is, well, there's no way I can give God all my time, right? I need to go to work, right? And then I can't give myself all the time that's left over after that because, you know, then I've got kids and a spouse and a job and all this other stuff. And so one of the first places I had to go with this construct was that it's not an equal weight of time, right? It's not an equal weight of time. And so that really helped me begin to shift how I looked at God, self, spouse, kids, mission, and currency. And so as we look at this order, and I'll tell you that now in my life, I live by this order, right? This is the order I live by, but it took me a number of years to get there. And that was an amazing journey. And it certainly wasn't overnight, and it's had lots of bumps and failures where once I had this order and this construct, I could then view my decisions and my choices I made in my life against it. And so one of the stories I had that really made this stand out to me was I'd come to the conclusion that this was the right way for me to live. I invite you to take a look at it. Maybe the order's a little different for you. But I certainly encourage everybody to intentionally set a priority, right? To intentionally set an order of how you look at these things, because when two things come in conflict with each other, this priority or the priority you set for yourself is how you can choose to break the tie, right? And so that's kind of one of the stories I'm going to share with you right now is that I had adopted this and was doing a lot of work, pushing through my day and how I scheduled things and how I allotted my time and my resources and my efforts to align with this. And we get up one day and my wife, Christy, has a medical appointment, and it's an outpatient thing that she has to do. It's a little more than an appointment, but it's not like a full-on surgery. I'm not remembering completely. I think it was like a little localized thing for her wrist, right? And so it wasn't insignificant, but it wasn't supposed to be life-threatening or any of those sorts of things. And she had a ride. She had somebody else. It was a close personal friend of the family that was going to be able to take her and bring her home. And so we decided or agreed that it wasn't the priority for me to be present at this procedure. Now, that being said, I wanted that to be the answer because I had a lot of work to do and was trying to catch up. We'd probably just come back from vacation. And so I was selfishly, right, probably shaping that it was okay for me not to be there. And I was trying to take care of other responsibilities that I had. And here's the crazy thing is that I go to work and I get there early because she had to leave early for her procedure or medical thing. I dropped the kids off at school. I think I had that responsibility that day. And now I'm sitting at my desk, and about the time that her procedure is supposed to begin, I'm sitting down at my desk and I have this moment like I'm in the wrong place. I'm not doing what I get to be doing in this moment, right? I get to go back to my priorities, and I should be sitting in the recovery room or in the waiting room or in the car or wherever the appropriate place is for that procedure to be in support of my spouse, because that was my priority and I wasn't living my life that way. And so now I'm in a conundrum. Now I'm in this place like, heaviness, like what's going on? I'm sitting at my desk and I look at my watch and I Google a facility, and the facility is like 45 minutes from my office. And so like I'm like, there's no way for me to swoop in and resume my spot for my responsibilities or my priorities. And so then I just got to sit in it, right? I got to sit in it that I'm like, I'm in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and I'm completely out of alignment with what I said was important to me. And so the crazy thing, not the crazy thing, the really neat thing is that because I had this construct, because I was living my life in a way and monitoring it, when I went home that night, I apologized. It's like the first thing I did is I went to Christy. I said, hey, I'm sorry. She's like, what for? I'm like, because I wasn't with you today. And she's like, it's okay. You didn't need to be. It was routine. It was planned. It worked out. Like there was she didn't carry any burden or resentment or ill will or a feeling against it, at least none that she expressed to me or none that I picked up on. But it wasn't hers to forgive in this case because I had a responsibility and I wasn't where I needed to be or I got to be in that moment. And so it was just a really awesome learning experience. And so from there and from other ones, what I found, and this is the invitation, is when two things come in contact with one another, right? And they want to occupy the same space. They want to occupy the time. They want to use the same resources. You move up the hierarchy into what wins. So in this case, I would have gone to be with my wife at the procedure versus going to work. Other times could be making sure that I get my prayer time in the morning. Just, even if it's just a few minutes, right? Like I have the YouVersion app and the verse of the day, and before my feet hit the floor, the first thing I do is I open my phone, I go to that verse, I read it, I meditate on it for a moment, I put that someplace I can carry it with me all day, and then I put my phone back down before I get sucked into the world, right? Because I don't want to begin my day that way. And my phone is also a tool, right, that has the Bible on it. We also have paper copies of it everywhere, but the handiness, the ease, the selection of the verse, the amplified learnings, all those things are great. And so that's an example, right? I got a little window of time for God to start my day, right? I have prayers throughout the day with meals, before meetings, before important things, before a podcast like this, asking for blessing, asking for surrender, being grateful for abundance and forgiveness and all the things that are out there, right? Just, it is a miracle we are here. And when we stop and get present with it, it is amazing. And so then I work with myself, and then I work with my spouse, and I prioritize her and her needs and her wants. And we got a really cool podcast coming up on that. It'll be a Happy Wife, Happy Life Part 1. I think there'll be a lot of those coming up, but we'll get to that one later. Kids, gosh, oh my God, right? Like so amazing. And then our mission, what we're doing in the world and our currency. And so why this order is so important and why I would go into the value of it as it is written, right? And you have the right to add, delete, reorder this as you will, but the first invitation is to inventory your life and look at where your priorities are, right? Because I promise you where your priorities are and what you're choosing to do, there are winners and losers in those decisions, right? There are prices people are paying because of the choices you make, and there are prices you are paying for the choices you make. And, like any purchase or any price that's paid, we get to decide is it worth the cost? And I think a lot of times we're paying prices in our lives that aren't worth the cost. But because it's a pattern, because it's a habit, because it's thoughtless, because it's automatic, because it's just what I do, because it's what my group does, it's because my friends do, because of what I've always done, what I've been taught, what my parents taught me, pick the narrative that underlies this, we're on automatic, right? And today is precious. It'll never be another day like today. It is unique unto this moment in time. And so I get to be present in it and enjoy it. So going into this order, why it's important, why I've adopted it, why I advocate for it in this environment, and almost you get a conversation with me and we're early on, you're going to hear about this. And it's why we're talking about it here today. It's like, putting God at the top of your life, centered, front and centered, most important, always in communion, always in gratitude, always, grateful for the abundance and the provision, always curious about the turn, the next corner, the next event, the next person, the next opportunity, because he uses all things for good, right? And so there's a Bible verse, Matthew 6:33, that says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, right? So seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, right? So that's the command, right? And then all these things will be added to you, right? If I put God first, the rest of it takes care of itself. And as we get to self, I can't fill up from an empty cup. And that's something I see everywhere. And I've lived it, and I still live it at times when I pour and I pour and I give and I give and I put off a workout, or I put off a couple hours of sleep, or I don't take the quiet time or the sabbatical once a month or whatever it is to refresh and refill myself. And then there are times I find myself snapping or being short or being grumpy or being unattentive, or pick the way of being that doesn't support those people around me or myself. And I can trace that back to the fact that there was a period of time when I neglected me. I neglected my needs, right? And by gosh, I certainly don't have that all wired, but the mere fact that I have this order to look at lets me put moments, even brief moments in my day for a little bit of self. I'm laughing because I think about a little habit I have, and that is when I go to the coffee maker and I put my cup in for my little Nespresso cup or whatever the packet is that's brewing the coffee in that moment. I do like air squats, right? And I'm like, I get 10 or 15 air squats in while the cup's filling, right? And that's exercise. I mean, it's sad in some ways, and it's also super exciting and empowering in some ways because I'm doing something, and something's better than nothing, right? And it's in my mindset, and it's in my thought process. And so be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, give yourself love. Like, that's what your father, that's what your parents in their heart of hearts would want for you, and that's what the people around you would want for you. So just practice good self-care. And we'll never have it right. We'll never get it perfect. But the fact that we're even trying is good. Spouse, significant other, partner, I way outkicked my coverage. My wife is so far out of my league, it's indescribable. So I'm blessed beyond belief in that arena. But that relationship is so epically powerful and affects everything in our lives, right? The strength of our marriage, the health of our marriage, the clarity of our communication. It is the foundation upon which everything really outside of the couple or beyond the couple is affected by, right? And that first level is the kids, right? That first level is your kids here. And what a testament kids are. If you don't have them, gosh, I highly encourage you to get them. We've talked about triggers in past episodes where they can show you quickly who you are at your core and give you lots of opportunities to grow and improve. And they are a blessing. And as they continue to mature, they just are so inspiring, right? And they're just a mirror. They're a mirror for who I am and who I've been and who my wife has been and where we've invested our time, talent, and treasure, our passions. Mission, purpose, vision, right? That's what God imprinted on our hearts. So when you get still, and when I've been still, I can feel this spot right on the top of my heart. It's like a crown, and like in that is my individual purpose, and it's there for you too. and getting these other elements in line and then in some sense of balance in our lives gives us the opportunity to get connected to that purpose, to that vision, to that mission for us, and to begin to engage in it, right? To begin to prepare, to be ready until called. And if we're never called, it's okay, because we've enjoyed it. We've been in that process. We've been in the journey. We've been in the practices. We've been out there preparing. It always amazes me. I haven't played fantasy football in a couple of years, but when I played a lot with buddies and whatnot, we always witnessed running backs going down, right? And for those of you who aren't football fans, just bear with me. This shouldn't take too long. But you'd always witness running backs going down, and usually week, 10, 12 or whatever, some old running back just shows up in the league, right? You haven't seen for a while. And it's like, how is that guy still coming back? And they were amazing at what they did, and they've kept themselves in game ready shape, or at least 4 or 5 or 6 game ready shape. And because they have such a strong record and they're in shape and they were pros and they were great at what they do, a coach has a need and they'll bring somebody in and they'll help finish out the season. And it just amazed me that people could be professional sport ready and sitting on their sofa. Professional sport ready and driving Uber or running their own business or doing whatever it is they're doing in their community until that injury happens or until that event happens and there's a need, there's an opportunity. And because they're prepared, they can come in and execute and participate in their purpose, right? They're ready for their purpose when their purpose and moment is called. So it's just amazing. And then the final one is currency, like money, job. How do we pay for the things around us? How do we fuel our lives, our cars, our 401ks, our college funds, put groceries in the fridge, pay rent, whatever it is? We've got to have that, right? We know we have to have money in the bank in order to do the things we're going to do. But somehow it always is there. Right? If we really get still, like we're fed, we're clothed, we're housed. For some folks, I acknowledge that there's a variance, right? There are opportunities or times when that maybe isn't the case, or we wish we were clothed better or fed better or had better housing. But the mere fact we're here today, the mere fact you're listening to this, right, on some sort of device, means you have some abundance in your life. Right? And God has cared for us, provided for us. And so there's a faithfulness in that. There's an opportunity for surrender. So just a huge invitation here to look at God, self, spouse, kids, mission, purpose, or vision, and then currency or job or how you pay for things. And so when I've had this conversation with folks before, sometimes it's like, well, I'm not ready, or I could never come to God first because I'm broken, or the way I've lived, or who I've been, or whatever the story is that keeps us separated, right? And what I would say is that underlying that separation is typically shame. And we'll dig deeper into shame some other times, but I bring that word up now because there's nothing that separates you. And that separation is a lie. Shame is a weapon, and it is probably one of the biggest and most powerful things because it speaks into, hey, I'm not worthy. Or if they only knew I couldn't or wouldn't, or I wouldn't be accepted, right? All these things that we tell ourselves in order to stay separate. And so I just raise that here to say that this is an opportunity that's really a both and, right? I get to look at how I'm living my life and begin to clean up things and to shape them and to choose differently and to take responsibility because I'm 100% responsible, right? And at the exact same time, I get to look at my priorities and choose how I'm living my life. and choose to maybe try things differently. And that's the cool thing, right? This can be a total experiment, right? Like life shouldn't be the same day to day to day to day, right? I think a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it too, try and make it the same. I think there's a sense of control. I think there's a sense of safety and security. But if you've ever been headed out into your life and everything's working perfectly and it's on time and everything's great, and then you get an extra long light, or a train stops on a track, or somebody gets pulled over, or there's an accident, or pick it, right? The interruption that was unplanned, and now all of a sudden, boom, the day's off course, it's off kilter, and now we're getting to make things up. So there's an old phrase that we used in the Air Force, and we did a lot of mission planning. I mean, we plan and we plan and we plan and we plan, and then we brief the teams or the crews on it, and then we go execute. We'd go fly. And one of the rules we always would brief, and it actually was literally on our 280, on the form we published for our missions, and it says on there, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. In this case, the enemy being the bad guys on the ground with guns or missiles or whatever to shoot at us, which is a bad day. But it also works with the enemy coming to kill, steal, and destroy. And so understand that our sense of control can be shattered in an instant, right? It is an illusion. And so in that, we then get to surrender, right? If I can't control, then my only real, true, peaceful answer is almost the complete opposite, which is surrender, right? Laying down the burdens, giving them to God, seeking to be peaceful, and just to be in His will, right? And we got to understand, God uses all things for your good, for my good. And I can go through a whole list of them. Maybe we'll do a podcast on it in the future about, hey, look at all these times when if I'd made my decision, it would have gone a different direction. But because I didn't get to make my decision, God had His event or His thought. So looking at this, it's a both and and, right? We get to clean up our lives and we get to look at our priorities and begin to choose against our priorities. And when things come in conflict with each other, we move up the chain of hierarchy and we default to that being where I spend my time, where I spend my effort. Again, in this construct, it's not equal weight of equal time, right? It's having the priority, having the intention, investing and spending time in it, right? If you figure, prayer time at 15 minutes a day, half an hour a day, 5 minutes a day, maybe even only a minute of quiet meditation and gratitude, right? Whatever works for you is significantly less time than what you'd spend at work in a week, right? So obviously not the same amount of time. If I was taking great care of myself physically, I might be spending 30, 45 minutes, hour and a half in the gym 3 times a week, 4, 5 times a week. Got to rest a little bit, right? So even if you sum up all that time, it's not even equal to one work day. So again, not the same amount of time, right? When kids events pop up, we get to go do that. So it's just a great way to choose how to set our priorities. It's a great way to deconflict from events when our calendars get compressed, because we get to have more white space. We get to have more opportunity in our calendar to just breathe, to be still, to have some quiet time. So as we begin to wrap this up, just realize that either you're setting your priorities or the world's setting them for you. Either you're setting your own priorities or they're being set for you, either subconsciously or by some outside force. And so you can't get away from this. You can't get away from priorities driving where you spend your time, talent, and treasure, where you invest your precious moments, right? And in reflecting on this, we get a look at what the prices people are paying, for the choices that I'm making, for the choices that you're making, and where you're choosing to prioritize things. So we began this asking, what are your priorities? What are your priorities for your life? So my invitation is to look at that, to choose, right? We're never going to get this right 100%, and we're never going to jump right into it and have it be this perfect solution. But I promise you that the fact you've sat here and spent this time listening, and I'm certain that some things have come up for you in this conversation, that even that awareness is the first step, right? So take a little bit of time, jot down maybe these, maybe add a few, maybe delete one or two, whatever works for you, but begin to actively build a decision framework to decide where I'm going to invest, what I'm going to prioritize, right? Because as this works, as my priorities work, I begin to build that life that I dream of. I build that life that I'm going to be proud of. I build that life that when the day comes, people stand and they speak about the impact of the mission, how the kids were raised, right? How loving and caring and dedicated they were to their spouse, how they honored themselves, how they cared for themselves, how they had dignity, right? And grace and kindness. And then how they were a daughter or a son, right? Of the Most High, how they showed up, how they worshiped, how they prayed, how they engaged in their community, right? And those are the steps to building that life, that legacy that really ripples and has an impact. So the invitation's to play all out, right? To get after it, to be curious, to have fun, be kind, be graceful, be bold. Because as we've said before, you're not going to get out alive. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending your precious time listening. I pray that this provides value for you, that it creates awakening, an opening, an opportunity. I just thank you for joining the Navigating Leaders podcast. Awaken your vision, live boldly, and we look forward to having you back here on the next podcast. Please share this, get it out there, and help grow our community. Be well, and God bless.